All right, well, welcome everybody. We'll be describing our work using new digital and interactive media to help with the visualization of vanished heritage. The example we're sharing today is a new visitor experience and wayfinding system that we at the Heartland Earthworks Conservancy developed for an important American Indian earthwork site in Chillicothe called the Junction Earthworks, or the Junction Group. My name is John Hancock. I'm a professor emeritus of architecture at the University of Cincinnati. For 2 decades, besides teaching architectural history and theory, I've led the production of interactive video exhibits and digital publications about Ohio's 2,000-year-old Hopewell-era earthworks, collaborating with the Ohio History Connection and the National Park Service, among others. About a decade ago, all of that work was brought together on a heritage tourism website called the Ancient Ohio Trail, funded by the National Endowment for the Humanities. My colleagues here today include Dr. Jarrod Burks, Director of Archaeological Geophysics at Ohio Valley Archaeology Incorporated in Columbus. Jarrod is president of the Heartland Earthworks Conservancy, an earthworks preservation and education nonprofit that commissioned the Junction Earthworks app that we're describing today. Jarrod is also an innovator and pioneer in using new remote sensing tools to uncover the secrets of archaeological sites, especially Ohio's ancient earthworks, without doing any digging. We're also joined today by Jose and Iara Kozan, the co-founders and managing partners of Virtual Grounds Interactive, the digital content developer that designed and created our Junction Earthworks app. Their firm provides experience design, project development, and interactive content integration, including augmented reality for cultural heritage projects. Jose also worked with me for many years at UC, doing design and production of many of our media programs about the earthworks. Our presentation today will be in 3 parts. First, I will explain more about Ohio's ancient earthworks, especially the unique visitor experience and visualization problems presented by these spectacular yet very unusual heritage sites. Then Jarrod will talk about the Junction Earthworks site and how it offered an excellent opportunity to try out some new media tools. And finally, Jose and Iara will examine the reasoning behind our choices of these technology tools and show you the app in action. Our aim is to illustrate how the combination of traditional printed signage with a downloadable app was able to bring the vanished site to life, to support site interpretations, and to increase visitor appreciation. We also hope to provide insights on possible similar applications. All right, in Ohio, as I'm sure you all know, we do have a distinguished world-class heritage of American Indian earthworks. The Newark Octagon, Mount City, and Fort Ancient, for example. They are comparable to England's megalithic circles like Stonehenge, but they are more numerous, much larger, and most of them are much more geometrically precise. Built nearly 2,000 years ago by a remarkably sophisticated culture, now known as Hopewell, 8 of these ancient sacred sites are being nominated to the UNESCO World Heritage List within the next few years. The virtual heritage work on this topic began in Ohio in the late 1990s and early 2000, when Jose and I were colleagues at the University of Cincinnati. We created computer models of the ruined earthworks for a series of interactive video exhibits, where flyover animations are accompanied by narrative descriptions and multi-voiced interpretations. In this early work, we developed effective visual treatments for this unusual architecture, working on issues like scale, contrast, and viewing angles. For the exhibits, we organized things into an interactive concept called Stories in Places, using a spatialized, exploratory, albeit pre-rendered, interface structure. All of this and more, as I mentioned before, has been collected on the Ancient Ohio Trail website. Many types of vanished heritage sites now benefit from virtual reconstructions, but these earthworks presented several specific problems. Architecturally, they are very different from a historic house, let's say, or a vanished complex of buildings. If you've been to a few of these Hopewell sites, you know, visitors struggle to understand or appreciate what they're looking at. It's hard to grasp their spectacular scope, beauty, and precision. And that's true for at least three reasons. First, they escape our normal modern human perceptual abilities. They are so large, it is difficult to sense their spatial effects and ordering conceptions, even when they survive well, like Newark's Great Circle here. Second, most of them are degraded by decades of agriculture to the point where that their monumental forms and scale are invisible, like here at the Hopewell Mound Group in Ross County. And third, coverings of forest and undergrowth obscure even well-preserved portions of the architecture, like here at the very well-preserved Fort Ancient. Some sites remain elusive for visitors because of a combination of all three of these problems. Over the years, our media work with these sites developed techniques specifically directed at these unique challenges. We began with the digital models, of course, reconstructing the forms of the earthworks according to the best known scholarship. Then, with a lot of experimentation, we refined ways of presenting them so their full grandeur might be more vivid and better appreciated. Then we also used these spatial explorations to lead people into a variety of interesting content stories. That was all developed for a pre-rendered video format. Our new Junction Earthworks app builds on this early work, but adds new user-controlled media capabilities like augmented reality, or AR, where visitors can see virtual objects like the earthworks live right in front of them or around them through the window of their smartphone. So next, Jarrod will get you oriented to the Junction Group and why it seemed like the perfect case study to try out these new on-site interactive media tools to bring a 2,000-year-old geometric earthwork complex back to life.
The Junction Group Earthworks site is near and dear to my heart. This is where I got my start in the world of rediscovering Ohio's ancient earthwork sites. With the help of the next several slides, I describe the archaeological work that started our interest in the Junction Group and set us on the path toward making this important site more accessible to the public. The Junction Group is a cluster of geometric earthen enclosures, about 20 acres in size, located just outside the town of Chillicothe, Ohio. Each enclosure consists of an embankment of soil surrounding a ditch excavated into the ground. And in this slide, the ditches are the black part of the enclosure drawings. You can see those on the inside there of each of those little enclosures. Earthen mounds are present both within and outside some of the enclosures. The mounds likely cover the footprints of buildings, inside of which the site's builders cremated the dead and ceremonially burned important objects. The site's relatively small size and unique combination of geometric shapes have led us to suspect that it was an early experimental or developmental work in the process of perfecting the Hopewell tradition of ceremonial earthwork building. Of course, it might not have seemed experimental to the builders at the time. Like many of the region's ancient American Indian monuments, Junction Group has experienced many decades of agriculture, beginning in the early 19th century. Plowing has gradually reduced the walls in height and filled the ditches. Although not before the design was documented in a mid-19th century engraving, a plate from Ephraim Squire and Edwin Davis's book, Ancient Monuments of the Mississippi Valley. Over 80 of the sites featured in this important volume were from Ohio. It was the first publication of the Smithsonian, and it helped launch the entire discipline of American scientific archaeology. By the end of the 20th century, the Junction Group site was merely a flat, open farm field, and only a few scholars knew otherwise. And this is what it looked like when I got there. But the site's earthen circles, crescents, and other figures were revealed in unprecedented detail in 2005, and then further in 2015 in a magnetometer survey. Magnetometers detect subtle changes in the Earth's magnetic field, and in Ohio, they are exceptionally good at detecting the soil that has filled in the ancient ditches and the foundations of the embankment walls that are still present just beneath the plow layer. They are also quite good at detecting burned soil and iron objects. The first of these startling magnetic images that we created helped motivate the site's preservation during the acquisition of the site, by showing the public that this was not merely another empty farm field, but instead it was a sacred ground where the ancestors of today's American Indians had invested enormous care and labor and had gathered for solemn ceremonies. A trail now takes visitors around this ancient site, and interpretive signs designed by the Heartland Earthworks Conservancy provide visitors with information about the site, the peoples who built it, and its documentation. When plans were being made for new wayside signs at the Junction Earthworks, we at the Heartland Earthworks Conservancy stepped in with the idea to add a mobile app. Today, the trail signs mark the locations of the vanished earthwork shapes, along with interpretive mowing. The app supports the 5 physical signs with in-depth videos and interviews, 360-degree panoramas of the digitally restored earthworks, and a scale model of the complex presented in augmented reality.
The main goal of the project was to provide visitors of the Junction Group site with a tool to help visualize the earthworks and understand the scale and size of this American Indian site. It was decided early on that we would digitally recreate the earthworks and the probable landscape. This approach would generate assets that could be reused throughout the project. For our wayfinding tool, the earthworks were reproduced in a 3D model and integrated in a virtual environment, emulating the probable landscape that once surrounded the site. We wanted to include the results of the digital reconstruction in as many ways as possible, so we decided to feature the virtual model as an augmented reality component and also in interactive 360-degree panoramas that would present the restored earthworks from the viewpoints of the 5 stops along the trail. We also produced renders of the 3D environment that were used as background on the physical signage. But before we dive into the app features, let's start by explaining the technologies we used. First, augmented reality, or AR, is the superposition of digitally generated graphics onto real-time views of the world. Augmented reality overlays 3D virtual objects on the real-world environment. One of the examples on screen is from Google Arts and Culture. Augmented reality differs from virtual reality, or VR, by including the physical surroundings in the experience. With virtual reality, everything you see is digital. While virtual reality allows for the user to immerse in a virtual environment, augmented reality overlays digital components around the user's environment. Augmented reality models can provide visitors with an opportunity to explore in real time 3D models of heritage sites. Few non-gaming augmented reality applications have taken full advantage of the technology and the power of adding virtual layers of content to objects and images. The ancient Ohio Trail which we believe is a familiar project to many of you, included augmented reality components that unfortunately are no longer available because the software was discontinued. During the aftermath of the recent fire that endangered the historic Notre Dame Cathedral last year, the heritage community started a conversation on how to best explore the role that emerging technologies such as augmented and virtual reality may play when historic sites are endangered by natural or man-made disasters such as wars, or when heritage sites have already disappeared, as is the case for many earthwork sites. If embraced and explored correctly, these technologies have the potential to become the ultimate preservation tool for future generations. Both technologies, augmented and virtual reality, offer opportunities to revisit destroyed buildings and landscapes recreated in virtual environments. The example on screen explores a famous painting by Rembrandt. The augmented reality portal allows to step into the anatomical theater and walk around the doctor and his colleagues as portrayed by the painting. The 3D environment is visualized through the screen of a smartphone or tablet. Imagine the possibilities. For the Junction project, the primary appeal of augmented reality was about its essential inclusive nature, as augmented reality experiences show the virtual object and the real surroundings on screen. This connection to the real world serves as a gateway to expand available information in an engaging manner. This approach can be a valuable tool to expose the project's audience to a narrative by engaging visitors on a discovery journey together. Augmented reality offers the opportunity of co-authoring the learning experience. The narrative shifts from the third-person storytelling to a first-person investigation that may change how the story unfolds. Our app also employs interactive 360-degree panoramas as an interpretive tool. We included 360 panoramas rendered at average eye level, so visitors of the Junction site can have the opportunity to compare views from the same angle of the recreated complex within real-life surroundings. Each sign location offers app users a 360 panorama of the virtually restored complex from that location. 360 panoramas are not immersive in nature, but they provide an interactive virtual tour of the reconstruction.
Our mobile application takes advantage of both the universal presence of smartphones and recent advantages in handheld processing power. By now, smartphone owners are familiar with augmented reality apps, from social media AR filters in Instagram and Snapchat to virtual items from Amazon and IKEA catalogs. Our approach helps visitors with three main problems related to the difficulty in experiencing vanished heritage, like the earthworks sites. It allows visitors to visualize the virtual reconstruction through their smartphone screens at their own pace. It compares the builder's original concept with the site's current condition, and it explores the earthworks complex from varied points of view, including at eye and aerial levels. Together with an interactive map and text offerings additional layers of information, the app can provide a layered yet seamless experience of locating specific media suited from multiple categories of visitors, from skimmers and strollers to seekers and scholars. The app is called Junction Earthworks Trail Tour, and it is free for download from the App Store and Google Play. It runs on newer models of smartphones and tablets. Visitors of the Junction site who have not previously downloaded the app are invited to do so on the first sign of the trail. The downloadable app is coordinated with the trail and its 5 signs locations, providing wayfinding along the several visualization and interpretation tools. The signage text is complemented in the app by in-depth videos and interviews. A digital scale model of the complex opens in augmented reality where users can explore moving around the model or by choosing map overlays, including the old engraving and the new magnetic data. They can also open content windows corresponding to the sign locations and simulate water inside the geometric figures' interior ditches. The combination of new tools and how they interact and refer to each other give visitors of the Junction Earthworks new and effective ways to grasp the complex history, formal precision, vast scale, and even the sacred aura of this ancient ceremonial site. So let's go over the functionalities of the app. The app centers around an interactive map featuring the 5 stops or points of interest corresponding to the physical signage around the trail. The map has GPS capabilities and provides wayfinding functionality locating the visitors in real time as they explore the site. So for each stop, the application includes an information page with 2 curated video clips that offer additional insights on the earthworks and the builders, and also on archaeological work and preservation efforts. Tapping on the numbered icon opens the information page. As visitors scroll up and down the page, they can trigger the 360-degree panorama and the augmented reality component. The short video clips are included in the app and do not require additional downloads or rely on access to cellular data or internet access to play. The thematic clips are presented in HD resolution and offer interesting information and valuable insights using resources from the Ancient Ohio Trail project. The first visual focus on the junction site, featuring animated flyovers of the restored earthworks, interviews, and other content complementing information available on the corresponding sign. The second video goes deeper into interpretations of the general life of the people who built the site. From the top box, visitors can open the 360-degree interactive panoramas. There are 5 360 panoramas of the earthworks in their fully restored condition, one for each stop, rendered from the viewpoint of the visitor as they stand in the physical sign. As the user rotates the device through a 360-degree arc, the panorama advances simultaneously. The images are high-quality renderings with realistic background hills and trees. The panoramas can be viewed in landscape mode. Visitors can trigger the augmented reality component by tapping on the icon at the end of the page. The application prompts the user to rotate the smartphone slightly around its surroundings to activate the ground detection plan. Once the plan is detected, the tapping on the on-screen will position the virtual model. The augmented reality 3D model is the same one as we developed from the panoramas, positioned on a flat base. Visitors can have an aerial view of the junction complex and the trail. Visitors may also rotate the virtual model and match their position on the trail to understand how the structures would be distributed in their surroundings if they were still intact. The augmented reality interface offers 3 heights for visualization, so the model can be lowered or raised at will to provide new points of view for inspection. The default height is around waist level and displays the earthworks arrangement in semi-aerial view as though photographed from an altitude. Floating point of interest indicates the 5 stops, and tapping on the icon opens the information box with a brief description. The model was also populated with animated characters representing adult men and women along the trail to provide a sense of scale to the earthworks. When visitors hold the phone at eye level, as though taking a photo of the landscape, an especially compelling view will appear. The earthworks as they were, as if the phone is a window looking into the past. The lower height allows the user to experience the earthworks from a top perspective. The virtual earthworks can be flooded with rainwater by turning the water level. And the interface also includes 2 images overlays that can be turned on and off. Users can visualize the results of the magnetic data survey, which best matches the 3D model when viewed from the top. They will be triggered right now. So demonstrating the eye view level. And the water ditches filled with rainwater, those can be turned on and off. So when you look from the top, you can see the whole complex. And you can trigger the magnetic data overlay. So when you look at from the top, then you can best match the data survey with the 3D models. This layer also has a transparency control. And besides the magnetic data survey, we included an overlay of the Squire and Davis engraving. And also a 3rd layer with a historical aerial photo is being incorporated in the next update. Provides an interesting opportunity to explore the model. Compare it with the Squire and Davis engravings. It's a little off in a couple of sites, but they did their best. And I think that it is very interesting to understand what they saw at the time and the idea. Also has some control for the transparency. And on the next upgrade, we're going to incorporate an aerial photo, and we're going to update the magnetic data survey with a better quality image from recent survey. So this combination of technology and interactive interfaces, they provide valuable information for visitors of the junction site. They entice further exploration of the stops beyond the signage and gets and keeps the visitors oriented to the scope of the trail experience, while also providing a historical perspective on the occupation of the junction site. So John, wrapping up.
Yes, thank you. You can hear me again, right?
Yes.
Okay. This Junction Earthworks wayfinding system is the first effort of its kind applied to our region's distinguished earthworks heritage. We hope that it can serve as an exploratory ground for testing the application of AR technology for experience design within similar site settings and requirements. The evaluation of this prototype will be a key step in the development of visitor experience plans for other of Ohio's ancient sites. In particular, the Hopewell ceremonial earthworks being prepared for UNESCO World Heritage inscription. I'd like to conclude with the words from Aaron Rourke, one of our former Heartland Earthworks Conservancy colleagues. He captures the sentiments, I think, of most cultural resource managers at these places. And here's what he says. The earthworks can't be comprehended in their current state. They're too big, they're too degraded, they're too far apart, they're too covered with woods and weeds, you name it. We've simply got to fix this. We have to make them comprehensible, most immediately for the incoming World Heritage visitors, but ultimately to increase local awareness and appreciation. Until we can pile up dirt and restore the earthworks to their former proportions, and this may never happen, and we may not even want it to happen for the effect that it would have on their remaining archaeological authenticity, creating an augmented reality experience is the best alternative because it will be a compelling experience, it can be done quickly, and it doesn't cost much. In fact, it creates perspectives unavailable even if the dirt were simply piled up again. So that's what we have for you today. Thank you for your attention, and we are ready to take your questions.
Yeah, thank you to our presenters. If you have any questions, please enter them into the Q&A box and we will get those answered. Can you comment on the current status of the UNESCO application and when that might be considered?
The status is that it's a lot of work and there's a lot of people involved, and it's been underway for about 10 years now, and we're hesitant to project an end date for that. But currently I think we're saying probably about 3 more years, something like that, give or take 1 or 2. The biggest piece of the work is, well, not the biggest piece, but one important piece of the work is writing the nomination dossier. That's coming along pretty well. Right now we're getting good feedback on it, and it's underway.
What might be the cost to produce something like this?
Jose and Iara, you're smiling, so why don't you?
Yes, we get that asked very often.
Yeah.
You know, it varies from site to site, and it varies on what information you have and the degree of where you want to go with the application. But you know, it is reasonable and feasible for the majority of the institutions, cultural institutions, right?
Yeah.
And we always try to plan together because this is a complementary app, so it needs to go with whatever the institution or the site wants to showcase. So it is not something that is going to blow your budget away. It does involve programming, does involve uploading the app to the stores, and some maintenance should be required. But the main for this project, a portion of the budget was also to reconstruct the site in 3D and make the environment, the virtual environment, live and populated with the trees and what you see for the 360 videos and the 360 panoramas, and also for the stills that we got. So it's very hard for us to give, you know. Yeah.
Basically, we would be glad to provide kind of a more specific inputs on
Yes.
costs, because,
Anybody,
it varies quite a bit in terms of the requirements of each project.
Yes. So just shoot us an email, and we can start a conversation with that. I guarantee you will be surprised. It's not that much as you perhaps think it is going to be.
It's also the type of project that lends itself to grant funding. That certainly in our previous history with our media projects, they were, I think, almost entirely funded by grants from Ohio Humanities and then the National Endowment, and perhaps some private foundations that would be committed to certain topics in your area. would be interested in having their name on something like this.
Yeah, so it's important to plan for this kind of outcome from the beginning, so you can include in the grant proposal the expected costs and some money for maintenance afterwards. So it's good to start planning early.
We've got another question. What is the feasibility for using this technology at a smaller site, specifically the original house layout and outbuildings at the Harriet Beecher Stowe House, or even a virtual reality experience inside for recreating rooms? What steps do we need to take first? And that was a few questions in one.
Yes,
Definitely. So I think that our colleagues who ordered, the application could also complement this. But this kind of approach can, you don't have to be a big site or a very popular site to use. In fact, the first project we ever got was a very small site in upstate New York, and they got a lot of awards because of their, boldness of approach to include augmented reality in whatever they were doing. And so I think that any kind of size of a site could use this. And for visualizing internal spaces is also very, very feasible through augmented reality. You don't have to go virtual reality, because then you need the goggles, then it's experience for the one person. Augmented reality can see through your phones or tablets, if you will, if you want to put a tablet in the space, and you can understand how the space was in the past. So
yeah. I also would like to point out that for smaller sites, there are other technology options, not only kind of a full downloadable apps, but we have been kind of working, experimenting, and already implementing a couple of projects that do use web technologies, where users, they can access 3D content using a web browser. So in terms of cost, these projects, which are web-based, they have a far lower cost for implementation. And it is kind of a path that we believe that many kind of smaller historical sites could take moving ahead.
Someone wants to know if this app works for Androids as well.
Yeah, definitely, yes. When you plan for an app today, you have to plan for both Apple and Android. And so it is definitely available on both stores. You just have to look it up. It is Junction Earthworks Trail Tour.
Do we have any more questions before we wrap up? Give it a few minutes.
Yeah. Well, I hope that it was, it provides an idea of the app. The app is very interesting and complements well the site tour. If you go to the site, you can download the app first, or you can download the app at the site and go through each stop and experience all this, the videos and the 360 panoramas. They all complement it. It becomes a wayfinding tool and a very interesting tour for. You can go as deep as you want. So also another thing, it is interesting to point out, this draws from content that was available and developed for the Ancient Ohio Trail. So it was a maximization of the content. So, the sites do usually have a video or some type of content that they can reuse, and it is always interesting to include as many content that was developed for other type of interactions, or like interfaces and stuff, into an application or a wayfinding tool like this.
Someone asked if you are planning on doing this at other sites as well.
Then is a plan, yes, John, or yeah.
As I guess from the Heartland Earthworks Conservancy point of view, we could say as sites become available, and then also as funds become available. But yeah, we see this as a good prototype. We've already learned some important things from doing this this first example, and I think we would love to continue with some other places.
Well, I think those are all of the questions that we have. So I want to thank all of our presenters today and thank everyone for joining us at this year's OHA annual conference. This presentation recording will be up in about 2 weeks, so keep an eye out for that. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you. It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for all your
Thank you.
tech support. We couldn't have done it without you.